everybody. Thanks for coming back to Talk with TQ. I really love doing this because I get to talk to the most interesting people, and they tell me things that they might not tell anybody else, or that they want to tell everybody, so they come to me, and I feel so blessed, so honored. Today I have a really great guest. He's a friend of mine. I know him as a photographer. I know him as a photographer and a videographer first, but then I found out over the years that there was something else about him, and I always said to myself, there's something about Bob. Now I know what it is. I'm going to talk about definitions of things here. Bob's here with us, Bob Buchanan. We're going to talk about definitions. Most people, I find, have a certain thing that comes to mind when they say the word psychic, but there are different entities of that. So I'm going to ask Bob to talk to us about those entities and also about his own particular gift, which is his blessing to himself and to us. Welcome, Bob Buchanan, to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Before we started, there were people who entered the room. We would say somebody's mother came, you know, and we can go there. But first I'm going to ask you some definitions. The word psychic is used almost like a catch-all, but not everyone that's a psychic is really a psychic. There are different entities. I've heard the word intuitive, and you taught me a word call bearer.
Right.
How do you spell that?
It's C as in Charlie, U Union, A Apple, L Larry. It's pronounced like call, but it's call bearer.
Call bearer.
Right.
What is that?
That means I was born with a veil on my face.
Oh, okay.
1 in about 800,000 babies are born with veils, and hardly any are men.
Is this like a membrane?
They don't know what it is,
This
but
veil?
it's something on. Some are born with full veils. That's even rarer. But I was born with a veil on my face, and it has to be surgically removed. They say it's like a skin, but they never really identified it.
Really? Okay. So when you were born, did your family talk about the fact that you had a veil over your face? Did they know what it was? And
Oh yeah, they kept it. They didn't talk about it much because I was born way back then. Anyway, back then they would, especially down south, if they had a call bearer, they would hang them.
Oh.
There's still a hanging tree in Louisiana, in New Orleans.
Real? Now this
They were
is,
considered witches,
okay.
so they really kept it on a down low.
So they hang the baby?
No, they hang the people. Once they started identifying themselves, getting stuff for people,
Yeah.
that was pretty much their demise.
I think it's probably kind of scary when someone sits before you and tells you something they shouldn't know. How did you end up getting into doing readings? Because I know a little bit about your history. Let me just rewind a little bit. You were actually a police officer.
Yes.
Okay, and you're also you are a photographer. You've done video. You've shot quite a bit of film. You've done books.
Yes.
Okay, and then at this juncture in your life, you've decided to be, you call it consulting. You often use the word consulting.
Consulting, yeah. I try not to use readings because I'm not reading anything. They're messages. And I've always had it.
Okay.
I just didn't let people know about it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't trust it. Because there were two voices that I heard, and one was the worry voice. Okay. My first memorable experience, I was probably about 15 months. My mother put me in for a nap. She gave me a bottle. I remember it tasting bad. I remember hearing a voice, "Don't drink that, it's bad." I threw the bottle out. The milk was sour. I described to my mother where the crib was, where the room was, the type of day it was. She's like, "You couldn't possibly remember that." I'm like, "Yeah, like it was yesterday." And as probably around 8 years old, and a lot of experiences like this. About 8 years old, we're building snow forts, my buddies and I, and I'm seeing the computers of today. Okay,
Wow.
Computers they probably thought of, but we didn't hear about them back then. When my dad died, it was actually December 23rd. We were supposed to go see him in the hospital. He was not supposed to die.
Your dad died on my birthday.
Really?
Yes.
I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning knowing he had passed, and they called us at 8:30.
Wow.
Another time, I was probably 18 or 19. A girlfriend went to Atlantic City. She was cheating on me. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning knowing something was going on, and she was. So these things always happened. I really didn't want to hear the voices because I didn't know what was going to happen. I would be, my kids would be out driving, and then all of a sudden I know they're in an accident, and I was sitting awake waiting for the police to come, and the kids are walking through the door. So I really couldn't identify the two.
Yeah.
I spoke with a medium down in North Carolina. I was with a healer.
Explain to us what a medium is.
Okay, a medium will get entities that pass. I call them souls, not spirits, because they're souls. To me, let me just explain something right now, just before we get too much further into it. To me, there's three entities, on the other side. I never get anybody, by the way, in the dark. They're always in the light. There's the divine spirits, Jesus, God, Mary. That's what this is all about. It's all about spirituality, okay? Anybody that accuses us of not like being anti-whatever, okay, they're wrong, all right? There are angels. Angels are a completely different entity, all right? And then there's the souls. So that's people like us that pass to the other side, okay? And they're the people that come to me. They come through like a curtain, white curtain in the back, and into a white field. If you look at it like a stage with a white curtain in the back, they come through that curtain. I never see beyond that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, mediums get, I like to say, a lot of people, and everybody's different. There's, everybody has different levels. Mediums get a lot of people, I like to say, and just a little information about them. Psychics, I don't want to say too much about. Psychics, they don't want, I know this for a fact. Okay, I've been told.
Yeah.
And you can think about it on a common sense level. They don't want us to know the greater future. Because if you think about it, if we knew the greater future, we'd probably get lazy or pick it up, or why should we bother because we're going to die on the 23rd? They just don't want us to know that.
Right.
So psychics tend to be power of suggestion, okay? Call bearers, we get fewer people, the people that brought the person to me, okay? And I'll give you a little example of that. And a lot of information. I do healings. Moses states in the Bible, and he's talking about the Nazarenes, that the call is here to cleanse the waters and heal the sick. Okay?
The call.
The call. Yeah, that's us, basically.
Okay. And it's spelled the way you spelled it.
Right, yeah. And I understand from what I've read, and I just started looking into this, by the way, I do word of mouth. I got a call from Carolina, North Carolina. I have clients all over the world now.
Yeah.
From North Carolina, saying, I understand you were born with a veil. My daughter was. I said, yeah. She said, what can I expect? And I kind of told her what to expect. And but I said, maybe it's time for me to look into it. I found a woman down in North Carolina. That's how I found out about the hanging tree. I'm sorry, she was Mississippi, lived in New Orleans. Her and her mother were both born with full veils. And she started enlightening me about the call, okay? And she started telling me some things that made sense to me, and getting back to what I spoke about with the people who brought to me, there was just an article done in a local newspaper on me, okay? 2 people so far that I've met with, both told me they never look at the paper, they never read the paper, they just happen to pick up the paper that day and go to. It's a real estate guy that wrote the article, because I did a reading on a house, first time ever. Yeah. And they, most people wouldn't read a real estate article.
Right.
And they did last night and a couple of days ago.
That's crazy.
Well, no, it's not. What happens is the souls on the other side want to reach people, reach you, whoever, and they've reached you, as you know.
Yes.
They bring the people to me.
It's so interesting to me. Do you find that this gift of call bearing, I'm trying to resist saying anything about myself, but do you find that you can predict something, or that you'll know the future?
They'll give me a little bit of your future path, okay? The immediate future, they don't go to like 3 years from now, one of the things that happened to me before I actually was doing this, probably in the early 90s, I can't remember, the Japanese they bought up Rockefeller Center, and everybody was concerned about that.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, I was doing my old toys book, and a friend of mine and my wife were in a car, and we're going up to Cold Spring. I was thinking about finding old toys for my book. They were talking about jewelry, and probably right out here on 9, I just blurted out, this is in June. The Japanese economy is going to crash. And my friend in the back said, "Where'd that come from?" I said, "I have no idea." I said, "But it's going to crash in October." And it was that October that it crashed.
Yeah, that's great. See, that's the kind of thing. Well, I think maybe if you know these things and you have this gift, do you feel a sense of responsibility in knowing these things, or do you just kind of just leave it? Is it organic? You just let it be?
I feel a sense of responsibility when I go in to do messages on a consultation, because, like I said, I do emotional healings, helps people move forward. Okay, so it has to be good for them. It has to be on for them, and there's a deep responsibility. Okay, I don't want to mislead anybody. And I'm hearing voices. I hear them in whispers. I see them in a faded black and white movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then when they turn colors, then I know I say it's loud. Then that might be a point I might have to bring out.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. What about dreams? Very often people talk about dreams, and they can be somewhat prophetic. I can say that I've heard people say they've woken up in the morning with someone in their mind, and it's on their mind, and then they say, okay, I got to reach out to that person, and then they find out. Or you have a dream. Do you have dreams? In your dream, what's your dream life like?
Okay, I don't really get a lot of dreams.
You don't remember them?
But what I tell people, the souls can reach us. It's kind of general information out there that the veil is thin around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You might see your animals responding at that time, and that's when they can come through. I mean, they obviously come through with me all the time. But when your mind is in flux, when the average person's mind's in what I call flux, okay, that's my term. When you're just going to sleep, just waking up, when you stop thinking about what's going on or what went on during the day, or when your dream is extremely vivid and pointed, okay? Most dreams are disjointed. You get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they kind of come together and make a crazy dream. That's not it, whether that's vivid or not. But when you see the person, a mother or a grandfather, and they're talking to you about something that's going on, that's a visit. That's how they can get to us. The little kids up to about the age of 6, when you see them talking to that invisible friend, it's not an invisible friend. I see it all the time. I had one real quick story. I hope you don't mind.
I don't mind.
I was telling a woman, I said, her 2-year-old son was there. I said, your grandfather's telling me he's talking to your son. Well, not really. I said, look, I'm seeing a cell phone. He's showing me a cell phone. He's talking through a cell phone. That doesn't make sense. I said, all right, well, I'm sorry. It's pretty vivid, so I have to go with that, okay? Oh, wait, he does talk on a cell phone. He picks up the phone and he's like talking. We didn't know what he was doing. I said, oh, that's your grandfather.
Yeah, I've heard stories like this. I think children are probably more intuitive or still tuned into their otherworldly side, I imagine.
Because they're not cluttered with all the garbage we have to live with, economies and whatever else we have.
Right, paying the bills.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not cluttered. So they know. And I have one girl, went up to 14. The mother and I were together. It was a party. It was her mother-in-law that was with us, and she says, my daughter says she speaks to her. I said, oh, okay. Bring her. She said, well, let's ask her. Oh, she's here? Yeah, she comes in. Long story short, I say to her, you talking to an invisible friend? And I hear the voice says, tell her it's me, stupid. And they do have a sense of humor over there. And so she says no. And that's when I heard, tell her it's me, stupid. I said, well, are you talking to your grandmother? Oh, yeah, and I see her.
At 14?
At 14. That's rare. Okay.
That is rare.
The connection is what needs to be to help us get through. You have to, it's a stretch for some people. We have to believe that there's more out there than just us.
What do you think about people, like I know people, I'll say I have a friend and she's constantly trying to tweak the cosmic to find out what's going on with her. She walks around, I remember being recently in a restaurant with her and she was actually dowsing in a restaurant and I was kind of like, this is not, and I was like kind of pushed back from it. I just sort of indulged her, but she asked me to do it. I'm like, I don't know. What do you think about people that are so obsessed that they're casting spells, they're dowsing. It's like constant. They never can just flow with the glow.
All right.
Glow with the flow.
I'm not a ritual guy. Okay. When I start my day and I know I have consultations, I'll just say a prayer to Mary, ask her to bring the souls forward. And she's never failed me yet. Okay. That's it. Then I have a little thing I have to go through, and it's more or less to explain to the person what to expect than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times now they come through before I even get through that. Some of them are so strong I can't even get through. And some people burn sage. I'm allergic to sage, so that's out.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in that you have to do that. That's me personally. What other people do is their business, but some people do go over the top with this. Okay, they believe that everything's a sign, everything's a symbol, everything is, and it's not that way. It's not everything is a sign or a symbol. So you have to kind of scale that back a little bit.
And it's different for each person, I imagine.
Absolutely different for each person.
You know, everybody's got their own story of how they communicate with whoever their higher self is. I'm going to ask you a question about old Peekskill. Peekskill's a really old city. And so I'm just wondering if you have any impressions that you're willing to share about Peekskill. You shared a few things with me, and I was kind of like, really? I'm not going there anymore.
Okay. One bar directly across the street.
Okay.
Okay. And I don't, that's not my thing. I don't get this a lot, just to be clear. I mean, a house reading, I didn't think I could do it. And bam, all of a sudden all these revolutionary people came. I was sitting across the street. Bernstall, is it?
Birdsall House.
Yeah, okay. I was waiting for a friend. It was just myself and a barmaid. And all of a sudden, it's just like a moment. The place filled up with all these old souls, all these like sailors. So I looked into Peekskill, and I understand it was a port at one point, and that apparently sailors did go to that bar, to that building.
And the building used to be on the other side of the street.
Okay.
The building has moved, and I've heard about when you move an old building.
Oh, they actually physically moved the building?
That's what I've been told, yeah.
Okay.
It was on this side of the street, now it's over there.
That's rare for me to get that.
Yeah, I wonder about it a little bit. And in walking the streets at night, speaking of animals, you're saying animals are pretty much, they see things we don't see. I can attest to that.
Dogs in particular.
Dogs in particular. My dog up Division Street late at night is, sometimes it gets kind of scary, it has, at times, where, you know, she's barking at something or she's looking at something, growling, and it's like up the street and there's nothing there. You know, and then she gets close to it, and I can remember once I'm getting to that point and hair goes up and her tail starts to wag a little bit, and I get there and all of a sudden I look at the bench and there's this person sitting there, you know, anyway, whatever. And then she's like satisfied, okay, now I see it, okay, I see it. I'll say, okay, I see it, Lillian, you know, but she'll up and down the street like that, barking at absolutely nothing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Usually they look up in the ceiling. Babies and little kids do that. I notice.
They look straight up.
Yeah, they look up for
in the
some
corner
reason.
of the room.
And she'll, you know, my granddaughter does that. She's talking away now, and she's with the hands and all this, and we don't know who she's talking. I do. I know who she's talking to.
Okay.
Okay. But you know, they usually look up. So especially the animals. The animals look up more than the kids do.
What about your body reacting to things? I mean, I'm trying to sort of relate a little bit so the audience can sort of, because I know that the body will react to things like an uncontrollable or unexplained heart pounding.
As far as call bearers go,
yeah.
Okay, we do feel physical pain, literally physical pain. Last night, I was getting serious back pain, and I said to the woman, "Do you have back problems?" She said, "Yes."
Okay.
And then they kind of go away. I was doing messages in White Plains on Mamaroneck Avenue. The night before, there was a homicide in the YMCA down the block and across the street.
That's great.
And I was getting my hair cut, and the hair salon was going to do one of the other people there. And all of a sudden, I started feeling like I was having a heart attack. Okay? And I'm like, oh. So we went out, and the news all morning was it was a double homicide. Okay? And I got this guy with me, and he's saying it wasn't. It was a suicide homicide. Okay?
Okay.
So I actually posted that on Facebook. And I'm like, what am I, crazy? I went to delete it because all the news all day long was it was not a murder-suicide.
Right.
And it turns out the next morning I woke up and somebody posted low HUD murder-suicide today. I'm like, okay, good. But once I kind of acknowledged him, the heart pain went away.
Some people are strictly into like what they consider the science of metaphysics. So they'll only do like astrology. And then there are the people that'll only do the cards. And I hear about the ancient runes. You know, there are all kinds of the ancient runes, the little tiles.
Right.
So, you know, what do you think about all the different entities? Do they all come together? Can they all be friendly? Can they coexist? Can they integrate?
They can coexist. You have to be careful with people with certain modalities, okay? Since the medium show that's on TV, there seems to be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork right now that probably aren't real, that are looking to grab money.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that upsets me the most about this is people have a little bit of that. One of the things, when I sit down, as you know, I don't ask questions. I don't let people, and as the person in this room that got something, I don't let people talk about what their life is like because I want them to tell me.
You prefer me to be quiet.
And and because what it does is then it gives me validity. I'm not asking you questions. I literally had a meeting behind me at a psychic fair, and this is actually what he asked this woman. He said, "What's your favorite color?" And she said, "Blue." Blue has a lot of meaning in your life. I'm thinking, really?
What's your favorite color?
Really? You know, that kind of thing.
Duh.
And that upsets me because that hurts people.
Because you're taking the money.
You're taking the money and you're not giving them the real thing, and people tend to, like we talked about earlier, some people buy into everything.
Yes.
And you can't. You have to really just pay attention.
I think it's their way of trying to have some control over their lives, I imagine.
We're all looking for answers. Right now, a lot of people looking for answers. Okay, they want to know that the people that have passed are okay. All right.
Yeah.
One of the things the souls will do, and they did it last night. Actually, the woman's husband last night. Woman's husband is in the room, and this woman comes to me. She's rubbing her chest. I said she's running back and forth, which means that she couldn't breathe, and she is probably had problems with her legs. That's a sign I get. They give me a lot of signs and symbols. And she said, "No, my mother didn't have problems." And I turned to the husband. I said, "Your mother have problems breathing?" He said, "Yeah, she died of lung cancer."
There you go. Yeah, so you had the wrong
then
mother.
his mother started coming through as well.
Yeah.
They usually don't get crossover, but because they were a couple, I did.
You had said something to me recently. I'm just going to bring it up because it's sort of valid. I've always believed what you do is real because I have had these signs. I understand it. But you had said something to me about my parents who separated when I was 4. Okay? And you said, well, they're around you. She says, they're okay. They're not together. They're kind of in the same room on one side or the other. And I was like sort of stunned by it because I had a dream where my mother came to me in symbology and my father came to me the same way. And they were on opposite sides of the room, you know? But they were not, there was no animosity, but they weren't together, but they were in the same side of the room and I felt I was in the middle. You know, those kinds of things. I imagine, okay, it's probably very important for you to be able to be in tune with your own, the metaphors. I just use the word metaphors.
With you, see, I don't remember. Sometimes I don't remember the beginning to the end, okay, of a consultation, and people come up to me, but what you just described, and I honestly don't remember it. It's nothing personal.
I know, you told me you don't remember after you do reading.
That was the distance, and there was a distance we saw between your mother and father, and you said there was.
There was.
If I remember correctly.
There was.
So that means they weren't, what that means for those, just to kind of bring people up to speed, that they weren't together here in life.
Right, they weren't together here in life just for this short time to make me be married, you know, knock boots, whatever they did, whatever.
Right.
They're two very attractive people.
Right.
And then, you know, they just weren't together. And then now they're both passed on. But I did have this dream before you said that to me about, and I said maybe that's what that meant.
You know, we get a lot of. I was doing a friend called me yesterday. She was depressed, and she asked me to come down, and I ran down to Terrytown for her. And I kept seeing a phone. You know, I said, there's a phone. I said, Ann, pick up the phone, call people, call your niece. It's Mother's Day. Your niece, she emailed me later. After I left, she got 2 phone calls. One was from her niece,
Yeah.
inviting her to, and it lifted her up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't see exactly, because it was kind of just she called me, I went down there, and it takes a while sometimes for them to develop.
Yeah.
And I question them a lot. I'll question them 3 or 4 times before I give you the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
So very often I'll give you stuff that and it makes sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Some things are like crazy.
They don't have to make sense to me.
Right.
The messages don't have to. They're about you. They're about where they want you to go.
Well, it's good because you don't like push for things.
No, I don't.
You just push for quiet.
Yeah, I don't ask a lot of questions. If you get somebody in this modality that starts asking a lot of questions, get up and walk out of the room.
Yeah, because it's really kind of, they're fishing.
Yeah, exactly. Like we all just experienced a few minutes ago. I had a short woman with me, and I described the short woman, who she was, and I knew who she was, but I just want to put out the description first.
Right.
See, what some people do in this, they'll say, well, I got a John with me. Well, probably about 15 Johns have passed, and you'll start telling me all these Johns, and I'll pick up on one and start giving you, oh yeah, that's him. What they do with me, they describe themselves. They show me who they are.
Yeah, I know you have to be careful of that because sometimes it'll happen if you're in a group of people, and then what'll happen is the spirits will be attracted to the person they know is for real, and that can be a little unsettling.
It drains me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I definitely can relate, but I wish we had more time. You'll have to come back to the show.
Anytime.
We'll do a different kind of a format perhaps,
All right.
so we don't, so people don't think that we're one of the others. They know that. I think by now. There's a lot of energy in this room right now, and which is why I'm sort of antsy. I've been told to sit still, but I will. But gosh, Bob, you're just too much. Yeah.
I get a great deal of satisfaction out of this.
And I'm so satisfied that you're at the show. I'm really so pleased, and thanks for coming. I'm going to shake your hand.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure.
It
I
was a
really
pleasure.
appreciate.
Thank you.
And we'll get together again because we're pals anyway, right? And audience, thank you for coming to the show. And I really appreciate it when everybody tunes in because I always have something to say or somebody that I want to present. And I try to get the most interesting people in all different walks of life. Thanks again. Come back, all right? Have a good time. Bye.